So you're all very welcome to another evening with CCG. It's hard to believe that this is our third broadcast live stream. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in and listening to what we have to say. I hope you're all well and that your families are all in good health and that you're enjoying the fine weather that we're having also, and that everybody is making the most of the free time on our hands and hopefully learning new computer skills, post-processing skills, photography skills and all that sort of stuff. So Paul has sent out some information recently there on the post-processing challenge. It's an image by Mark this time is on the go. So I'd like to encourage everybody to get involved in the challenge. Whether you're used to processing or not, I think it's a very, very good learning opportunity. And it's only by doing the processing that you actually learn how to do it. Now, as a follow-on to that, next week we're presenting Rodney O'Callaghan, who's a professional photographer. He does a lot of workshops. Rodney has very kindly offered to do a Photoshop session, and basically it's how he edits his own photographs in Photoshop. So it might be a good opportunity for people to pick up a few tips and hints on Photoshop. The following week, I'm going to do a similar broadcast on Lightroom. Finbar very kindly has sent me an image that I'm going to use as a base for this. And I'll probably do a color process, a black and white process, and maybe a fine art process, depending on time limits and things like that. So on the Scotland trip, Paul has set up an inbox again for that. So I'd encourage everybody to put in the images for that. I got a great response from people. Thank you very much for that. Much appreciated. So our idea really is that instead of having a slideshow of images, what we're going to do is we're going to ask each individual to present their own images. Now we'll have to see how many images we'll have at the end of the day. So you might only end up presenting 2 of your images, or it might be 4 of your images, but we'll see. We'll try not to have an overlap in images, so that will be an interesting show for everybody. Tim has come up with a very good idea on a home photographic challenge. And again, now I'd like to encourage everybody to get involved in it. You won't need any specialized equipment for it. We will be fleshing it out during the week, and we will be sending out the information on it. And possibly Paul again will be setting up another inbox for that, but we'll get back to you with all the sort of details. But essentially what it will be anything that you can photograph in your home or garden, inside or outside. Macro, ordinary lens, something interesting in the garden, a bit of frost on the grass if we get frosty mornings, flowers. Jonathan, your garden would come in very handy for this challenge, and I'm sure all your flowers are in bloom at this stage, so we'll be expecting a very high standard for this, hopefully. So that's about it, lads, on the notices. So tonight it gives me great pleasure to introduce one of our own members again, Martin Duggan, who's going to have another go at presenting his Dragon of Shandon and how he photographs it and all the difficulties revolving around that. If you remember, Martin had to cut his presentation short, and I think we all found it invaluable. Tim is also going to do a little software session on a product called GIMP, and it's an open source software, and it is, I suppose, the equivalent of Photoshop, and it's out there, and you can download it, and it's yours once you download it. So without further ado, I hand you over.
Hi, and for the next segment that we want to do in our virtual meeting, we've got Martin Duggan on the line, and Martin is going to give us a bit of a walkthrough about the Dragon of Shandon. So unless you've been living in underground in a cave, without internet or radio or TV for the last couple of years, the Dragon Shandon is about. Fantastic parade that happens in the autumn, Halloween time, I think, and it's like as good or better than the Mardi Gras in South America, and it's way cooler than, for instance, the Paddy's Day parade. Cooler in many ways because I think it was kind of snowing there last year. But those are the kind of challenges you have, is the kind of weather, the light, to get a shot out of that parade. And Martin's going to give us a few ideas now on what he does and what he thinks might be a way that we could get a decent shot out of that parade. So by next autumn, when it's running again, we'll be just about out of quarantine, dusting off the cameras. So tune in, concentrate, take some notes. I'll hand you over to Martin now.
Okay, thank you very much, Tim. As I said, I was asked by the club to give a talk on the Dragon of Shandon Parade. It was deferred twice, but so we're doing it now via Skype. I wasn't going to let a virus with that was named after a light beer in South America deter me, so off we go. Now, the interesting thing about the Dragon of Shandon Parade is probably one of the most difficult tasks I have taken, and I've known other experienced photographers as well have found it quite challenging. So from that point of view, from a photographer's point of view, it's well worth giving it an effort. Now, how would you go about it? The first thing you would need to do now, you can't just turn up on the night and be a photographer as a spectator. But if you want to get down and dirty, get into the action, what you need is to get your accreditation, which I have here. Now, myself and Dermot have a relationship with the Dragon of Shandon parade organisers, and they do give accreditations to club members. And if you're interested, approach us and we will try to get you an accreditation. They're limited enough, but you can get one. Now, the thing is, they do remember. So if you go, get your accreditation and don't pass on images to them, they will then not give you an accreditation next year. But if you scratch their back, they'll scratch your back, and next year they'll give you an accreditation. And if you produce the goods and give them the work, they'll be delighted to give you an accreditation. A few things to watch out for is some of the performers there are actors and they're fine. Some are special needs kids and you have to watch them, and not approach them, and don't upset them. Do what the stewards tell you. As you see, I have my nice little stewards vest on. You need to wear one of those with your accreditation. It's no harm. I know it can be a pain in the butt. When other stewards have them, they get in the way and everything, but it's the joys of it. So I would recommend you go up at least a half an hour before the parade, get your accreditation, and then you'll be allowed to go around and take photographs, and you can approach a lot of the actors before the parade, and you'll actually get quite good images then when they're happy to pose for you. I'll show some images, a few, at the end of the presentation. And I'll talk about the different techniques that I've used and other photographers have used, and we can see about that, about what you can do. And then when you're on the move, what makes this so challenging is the fact that the lighting conditions are so difficult. You have people moving. It's always held on in Halloween night, so the weather can be bad. It can be rainy. It can be cold. Be sure to wrap up well. Have your scarf, your hat, and your coat on. And the performers move very, very quickly. So what you do need, and this is getting back to what I was asked to talk about, was the equipment. And sometimes they'd say to you, oh, sure, look, it's not the equipment, it's the photographer. But for situations like that, believe me, good equipment is important. My own camera, a D700. Now, I had the D200 before that, and the D200 didn't cut the mustard, to be honest with you. Now I have the D700, and this goes up to 64,000 ISO, which is okay, but I know more of the modern cameras now are better, and the dynamic range is better, and you need good dynamic range, and you do need a good camera that doesn't produce noise at high ISO. And to be honest, you do need a good lens. My lenses are 2.8. This is the Nikon 24-70, and I have a 70-200 2.8, and they're quite good lenses, and you do need good lenses for this type of stuff. And so I have a flash, which has the Nikon flash, and I also have the Yongnuo flash, which also comes with a trigger. No. So what type of photographs do you take? Basically, every photograph, every time you press the shutter, you're going to have to do your calculations. Are you going to use flash? Are you going to use ambient light? What are you going to do? You'll get different results with different exposures, with different techniques. So what I'm going to, so the first, probably the basic way the first way you would start off would be your flash on camera. You would turn your flash on. I would have it up at 64,000 high. So I would have my shutter speed or my focusing at continuous, so that it's tracking the movements, because they move very quick now. A lot of the performers will try and perform for you, but they'll run towards you very, very quickly. And on different areas now, the route the parade takes is it goes down Church Street, then turns left down Shandon Street, then it crosses the Northgate Bridge into the North Main Street, and it finishes in the Cold Quay, and there's a bit of a dance and a party there. And the lighting is very different in different areas. In Shandon Street, the lighting isn't too bad, and I tend to use available light. In Church Street and in the North Main Street, I tend to use flash. The problem with the flash is you can't, the camera mightn't focus because it's too dark. So what I tend to do is I use this, which was an old, you used this before for off-camera flashes, so you wouldn't get red eye. But I use it, and I also have this thing that I bought from Paddy Barker. It costs about €100, and you slip him on here. Now this is daylight balanced, and it has a few different settings. And if you don't want to disturb the performance, just put it down a little bit, and that will give it the light that will allow the camera to focus. And when you get your focusing, you can then fire your shot. And that's how I use my flash. When I'm not using flash, I just use available light, and I will show the difference. If you're going to use available light, your images are going to be grainy, but I think for those type of images, for that type of scenario, I think it matters all that much, really. How do you get your images? You just have to watch the performers. They tend to redo what they've done every 10 yards. So once they're doing something once, if you watch, they'll do it again 10 yards further down the line, then 10 yards down the line again they'll do it, and just follow them. Quite a lot of them will, once they get to know you, and once they know you, they will perform for you. They'll run towards you, and if you're quick enough, you'll get the shot. Again, going back, I think it's if you're up there early and if you're up there on time, what that does is it allows you to ask the performers to pose and get some photographs. And I'll show some photographs that I've taken and other people have taken for this. So another thing I tend to use is a gel. You can use a gel, and this can go on over the flash, just a red piece of gel. And if you put that over your flash, it gives a kind of a red, type of feel to the image. Now, if I'm using a gel, I tend to use off-camera flash. So I can use the Yongnuo flash, put the gel over the flash, and take the flash off camera. Usually you're doing this now with a willing subject before the parade, and you have your little stand here, and you could put your young newer flash in here, and you could just stand and use your trigger and use it for a backlighting or whatever, and it does add a kind of an effect. Another technique that I use, or another piece of equipment that I use, is this here, which is which allows me, this Nikon strip, I connect it to the camera, and then I can connect it here to the flash, and I can direct the flash wherever I want to go. And you can actually just put it underneath someone's chin and use a type of lighting called monster lighting, which you wouldn't use normally, but for a type of parade like that, it really is well worth in the effort. It gives them a kind of a monster horror-y effect, which will work in these circumstances. Another thing you need is your cloth. Be sure you have your cloth to clean all the time. Give yourself, because you will get wet and it will get foggy, so you do need your cloth. And another thing I use is a loop. So this loop. Again, I bought this out in Paddy Barker's for I think around €100, but I find it very, very valuable. You can put this at the back of the camera, and when you put it at the back of the camera, you can look at the camera and see your image very, very closely to see if it's in focus, what the dynamic range is like, and what the lighting is like, because sometimes they are made up very, very brightly with very white, so you do get a lot of hot spots, so you need to check that, and you might need to condition your exposure, drop it down. And again, as I'm saying, every photograph you take is going to be different. Different exposure, different shutter speed. You're going to have to use your judgment. It's your own judgment as a photographer that you use to know which are you going to use flash, are you going to use ambient light, are you going to use a fast shutter speed, are you going to use a slow shutter speed, what type of exposure, what type of technique you use, which is what makes the Dragon of Shandon Parade so interesting and such a challenge to the photographer. So I think that's it with techniques. Again, just to mention that this that I bought, this light that I bought, again, is very handy. You can take this off camera, and it's daylight balance, and it goes up on stop increments. Now, again, this costed €100 in Paddy Barker's, but again, it's very, very handy for topping a bit of light into someone when creating whatever effect you want. You can get this type of effect, you know, this type of effect, this type of effect, you know, any type of effect you want, and which is perfect for, again, this cost about €100, which from Paddy Barker. You might get those things cheaper online. So that's they're the techniques I use, and I just find the performers are great, and I get great satisfaction giving them. I've got to know a couple of them before, and I've shot them after the Dragon of Shandon Parade as well. So best of luck. I hope this Halloween, all being well, that some new photographers in the club can try out the techniques that we've used. A lot of people in the club have been there and got great satisfaction. As I said, you had Dermot O'Sullivan, you know, you had Marius Kolanowski done some great stuff, and Francis and Vincent Kelly, you know, and Dennis O'Driscoll, but a few photographers that have been, and Charlie Donovan as well, have been regular, and Dan Geary have been regular contributors to the Dragon of Shandon, and I think it's been a two-way street. The Dragon of Shandon Parade committee loved the images we give, and I think we get great satisfaction in taking the images. Thank you very much for your time. I'm going to go through some of the images that were taken, and I'll talk about them in relation to the techniques I've commented on. Thank you. Right, okay. So here are a few of the images that I have taken, and other photographers as well in the club. This one is with flash, and you can see the difference here, how sharp the person is. Now, I had to be a little bit careful that it wasn't overexposed or anything like that, but that's that's how it comes out with a flash. The next image I'm going to show is going to be an image that was shot with ambient light, and we see the difference. Okay, so the next image I'm showing is a scene that was a photograph taken 30 seconds afterwards, and you see the difference. The first one was of flash, and the second one was of using ambient light. So both have their qualities, both have their faults. So it's up to you to make up your mind which one you want to use. This one, again, is just showing what you can do before the parade starts. This year, actually, unfortunately, it was very, very wet weather, so we were residing the Firkin Crane, and this chap, who I think he was French, he didn't speak any English, and he was just sitting there waiting, and I asked, just motion, can I take a photograph? And most of these people are quite happy, and I again used my monster light with the technique I was showing earlier on, and I just put the flash down very low and up, and that's the image I got. This is an image by Dennis O'Sullivan, who takes a lot of images in the Dragon and Shandon Parade as well. Not quite sure if this one was posed or it was a grab shot, but again, it's a great expression, great shot. Again, this is, I believe, Dennis O'Driscoll's. I'm not sure what post-processing technique he used, but I believe that again was in the Firkin Crane before the parade started. So it's always advisable to get there early so that you get good images like that. Again, this is another one of my own ones that was taken at the very start of the parade using backlight, and again, ambient light, no flash used here. And you can get kind of atmospheric shots like that in the parade. Again, this just shows that this was during the parade, but this guy kind of knows me, he's used to me, and he was quite happy to pose, and there is a bit of flash in that one. Again, I adjusted the exposure so that the flash wouldn't be overwhelming, but there is a little bit of flash used. This is a very similar technique. I just used a little bit of flash if you look at the eyes, but not too much, and quite a slow shutter speed as well, so that I picked up the ambient light in the image as well. This is another one, again using ambient light. Probably is a little bit unlucky in this one because the main character is slightly out of focus, and that happens all of the time in the Dragon of Shandon Parade. Now, this type of shot is the type of shot that the Cork Community Art Links want. The images we might have looked at previously, we might think, oh, they're great for a photographer's point of view, but they want the crowd, and they're very interested in looking at a lot of the props they make, because they spend a lot of time making the props. So don't forget to take a couple of shots like that as well, and they'll be very happy with them. Again, this is just a chap I know, and it just got a bit. I just focused on the eyes. Again, this was ambient light, and I like the kind of out of focus area in it. Again, this is another one. You get incredible performers, incredible dancers. These images now, really, to be honest, and they're just ones I just grabbed together. I had some very, very good images of those because they were incredibly acrobatic, because a lot of them perform in the Firkin Crane as well. So they're actually acrobats. Again, we actually, again, got to know this performer, Maka Shewood, and we photographed her during the summer as well. But they're absolutely incredible performers. This one is, again, flash, using flash. And this is just to show you the difference, same performers using ambient light. This one was taken in the Northman Street, and it's quite dark in the Northman Street, quite dark in Northman Street to get. You're quite lucky to get an ambient light shot there. And again, this is just at the end of Shannon Street. This is Mr. Dragon himself. And the dragon is just kind of looking there, and this guy is looking as if he's holding the dragon down. And again, it's the type of images that they like, because it shows the crowd and it shows the props that they spend so much time taking. Again, this is just a guy that was quite happy to pose for me. Again, using my monster lighting technique, something that you wouldn't do normally, but I just put the flash lower under his chin and took that shot. And there are all of the images. And okay, so that's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you've learned something from it, and I hope you will attempt to take some photographs in the Dragon of Shandon Parade the next time. Thank you very much.
So here we are again taking another look at some software, and as before when I took a quick look at Darktable last week, this is just kind of an overview of the product. It's not designed as such as a tutorial. There are lots of tutorials on this product available online if you want to take a look. You can download it from this site, gimp.org, gimp.org. And it is a program that will work for you as a photo editor, just in the same way that you might use Affinity or Photoshop or whatever editor you have. But in addition to photo manipulation, it can also produce original artworks and be used as a graphic design tool. So whether you're doing photographs or you're creating, say, book covers or web pages or magazine design, it can work for you within those areas. It will also connect to some other products that are available from the open source community, such as these ones here, Scribus, Inkscape, and Swatchbooker. Finally, it's available for people to connect to, and they can write their own code to work with GIMP. The result of which is that there are a large amount of plugins that you can get and download and connect to GIMP that will do extra things in the program. And here is the GIMP program itself. So obviously, prior to this, I've downloaded the program from the site and installed it in my system. It is also, by the way, available as what's called a portable application, which means that you can download it, install it onto something like a pen drive, and then just shove that into any computer that you go to, and it'll work happily as an app. Okay, so here is the interface. I won't go through everything in this, but you can see that it's got, the usual screen header, and then within it, it's got a menu system. It's got a toolbox at the side here, and on the right hand side, it's got some extra toolboxes that you can choose from fonts, brushes, and so on. At the bottom here in this section typically is the layers, although of course all of these areas are readjustable, so you can drag them to wherever you want or position them depending on how your own workflow operates. Okay, so just to show some features, so at the beginning here we've got this one which is a move tool. The next one is a selection tool, but in each of these tools is also a tiny little piece which will allow you to drop down and see extras inside it. If you want to see what the extras are, what you have to do is to click and hold down on the item, and you see this one can be a move button or an align button. This one can be a rectangular select or an ellipse select. This one can be freehand select or other items. So as I say, I'm not going to go through all of these here, but they contain the common features that you need in an image manipulation program. So for instance, just to do one, this is the crop tool. I click the crop tool to activate it, and now back on screen. So my mouse pointer is changed into a different icon to indicate that I am in the crop. And if I drag, so now I'm selecting an image or part of the image that will be cropped. So the outside areas are grayed out. These are the bits that will disappear if I proceed with the crop. You might just be able to see some grid lines around the image here as I crop, and that's adjustable. You can see a number of features we can change. The lines that are on screen at the moment are diagonal lines. If I change that, you see I can have center lines, rule of third lines, golden section lines, and so on. So let's do our familiar rule of third lines. And I'll go back on screen into my crop and drag. And now you can see those lines positioned, and we can drag our crop around to see if it aligns with anything useful. And when it's done, you can double click or press enter and it will crop your shot. Okay, back on the left side toolbox here again, you see we've got a couple of tabs in this area, and one is the undo. So if I don't really want that crop, I can just go back a level, drop down to the what they call it here, the base image, which is the image I opened without any changes. So I just wanted the full image back on screen again because it's got a range of areas and colors and tones, and I just want to show how they adjust based on some menu choices I'm going to take. So just to take a look at some of the choices that's inside in the colors menu. Colors menu, a place that you would go to fairly frequently to make photo adjustments. So here's the very first one, color balance. Color balance brings up this dialog, and inside in this dialog you can see there are several things that I can adjust for. So for instance, I can take the whole area, or just shadows, midtones or highlights. I can also adjust the cyan to red, magenta to green, or yellow to blue areas. So this one was taken by the ocean, obviously, so it's probably got a predominance into the cyan and blue areas. So the first thing I'll do is maybe track up more towards the reds. So let me just grab this, drag it up, and you'll see the change on screen. So there it's getting more like sunshine. So here's green, so maybe I want to take that down. I'll drag into the magenta area. So probably too far there, but get the idea. And yellow and blue, so I want less blue, more yellow, so I'll drag into the yellow area. Maybe you think you've gone too much, you don't like the water, so drag it further over towards the blue. This is affecting the entire image, obviously, but if you had selected first of all, you could be just doing the changes to that selected area. With any of these dialogues here, you've got a few things you can do to judge whether you're getting it right or not. So one is the preview. At the moment, the preview is on, and it's nearly always on automatically. But if I click, the preview disappears, so I can see my before and after changes. There's also a split screen view. I can click to see whether I prefer the changes I've put on or the ones I had coming in. And if I think I've made it bag as the whole lot, I can just reset everything. Up here we've got a preset, so there won't be anything here at the moment, but if you make some changes, it'll have the changes that you made previously inside here, and you can store those, or you can actually add your current settings as a named preset. So if you've got a lot of these shots to change and they're taken in a similar location, once you've got the settings right, you can save them out. So at the moment I'm just going to cancel that without making any changes and go into the next one. So here's our color temperature one. And here I'm going to do more or less similar idea. So I'm thinking that the temperature probably needs to come up a bit. So if I grab the slider and drag it up, see the changes time is a bit more subtle, but it's getting there. And again, I can use my split view to see the difference. And finally, the curve section is one where some of us might go to make global adjustments to our image. Again, let's take my split view, see if I've improved the image, and if I'm happy with it, click OK to commit. So depending on your image, you want to use one or other of those controls from the colors menu. So for instance, on this image here, it might just give me a bit more scope to display some of the items from the color balance area. So here in our color balance, so we can see there's a lot of yellow in this image. And if we want to, we can take that more towards the blue to reduce our yellows out. Or if we want to accentuate the reds, so we can go here and drag up into the red area. Quick look at some select tools. Here is the selection tool here for selecting rectangle. So if I just click and drag over a bottle, I can select that, and then once it's selected, so I can apply some of the effects to it, or I can just do the standard copy and paste. I put it onto the layer over here. And I'll now, when I've pasted it in, I'll name that layer. And I'll disappear the layer beneath it. So I could just extract and start building a composite. Now, obviously, that's kind of quick and dirty work. As you see here, I can select that with an ellipse if it's suited the object better. But I've also got some other selection tools. And this one here is my freeform select tool. So let's just go to an image of this guy, stuck for model release form. So this person was willing, and here is my select tool, freeform select. And basically all you do is you click and drag around the image. You can just click and click and click again, or you can click and drag. So obviously I'm not being terribly careful here, but if you wanted to, you could zoom into the image and do it more precisely. I'm not doing that because effectively, if I was doing this for the actual image in real work, yeah, I wouldn't use this tool. So just demonstrating what it can do. So at the moment, it has completed its selection, and you've got those little marching ants, as they're called, the marquee select items to show you what's selected. And now again, if I operate with that selection area, it'll only happen to the area that's selected. Or again, I can cut it and paste it. And turn off the other layers just to show it. And that's what we get. So obviously not the best cutout ever. But as I said, if you wanted to be a little bit more careful with it, you could just define those areas. You could also zoom in, select like this. So you're getting closer to what you want. Now, for a lot of work, you would have to do that type of very careful cutting out. But actually, there are a couple of tools in GIMP that might help you to get the image out better. So let's just turn off that one, get back to my base layer. And in fact, what I want to do is just duplicate this now, because if I make any mistakes, I know I've got a base copy to go back to. So I'll rename this one. And just get rid of all the other ones. And you can see maybe I've got a small selection here, so I'm going to kill that selection, which is select none. And obviously this was pre-coronavirus days, because people are just sitting very, very close to the model and making it harder to cut out the image. But what we can do is we can go here to this one, which we were just in for the free select, and take instead this one, foreground select tool. So this works by having an algorithm in the system which determines what your foreground or your background is. So again, the first step is just with this little drawing tool is to select roughly around where you want the subject to be. And again, you don't have to be too careful, just need a rough selection. Okay, there we go. So once you press enter, what you do is it places what's basically a mask on the system, and it shows you what it's detected as the mask. But this is just the first step, because obviously it's not quite good yet. But now this pointer here is changed into a refinement tool, and this refinement tool is based upon what's happening in the tool panel. So if we go over here and have a look at our foreground select panel, we see at the moment it's drawing the foreground. Its mode is replacing the selection. It's previewing with certain colors on it. And if I just proceed with this particular level of width of brush, I'll be able to redefine the area that I'm masking in. So at the moment, this brush is probably a little bit too big. So I'll go back here to the tool and drag down the width of that. Come back on screen and start drawing. So at the moment, I'm still selecting the foreground. So I basically need to draw now within my body area. So this is step 2. Step 1 was just circling around the outside. Step 2 is effectively circling around the inside. except in this case, so I'm going down over the arm because that's meant to exclude the outside. And also within the area selected, you need to do a couple of, as it were, scribbles around the place, just to indicate that these are the areas you want included. Okay, so you can see you get an approximation of the mask, and if you press enter again, it'll proceed to preview that. So this is the algorithm. This is the algorithm in action. So it's detecting what I've selected based upon the areas that I've marked. And you can see that this one is much better and for less work than I had to do with the individual select tool. Still not perfect, so we still got a few bits around the place, especially as usual on the hair. But if I wanted to, I could just proceed to refine that and get my image the way, get my cutout the way I needed it. So earlier Martin was talking about the Dragon of Shandon Parade and shooting on the night, and this is an image from last year's Dragon of Shandon, and this is shot with a flash gun, and as a result there's some maybe obvious signals that tell somebody that it is a flash. But again, if we use some of GIMP's features from the colors menu, so perhaps the shadows and highlights, so I'm looking here at highlights in the face, and if I take those highlights section here and just start dropping them down, so we should see some difference in the face. Okay, so we've gone a bit too much there. Let's bring it back up. So probably go chair. Let's take the split screen to see the difference, and the preview before, preview after. So some slight differences in the face. Let's take a look at the shadows. So we've got some in the background area, but perhaps maybe we want more shadows in there. So let's take our shadows and adjust the exposure of the shadows. So putting more focus on the subjects. And lastly, just to finish up, another Dragon of Shandon shot, and this is just to demonstrate some of the overall composite abilities of GIMP. And this shot is composite of several taken on the night. So this was in fact my original shot, and this performer was part of the parade. She was obviously Daenerys, mother of dragons from Game of Thrones. And I asked her to pose, which she very, very kindly did. And she but of course, just as she was posing, along comes this nice man here, press photographer. He should know better, and stood just right in the shot. So next shot, unfortunately, as Martin was saying, given the conditions on the night and the speed at which things move, you're not going to get every shot. So really, I had one chance to get this shot, and then things just moved on. So obviously I didn't really get a proper shot, but by the miracles of composition, I was able to recover something in GIMP. So just to give you a look again at, this is the one more or less that I ended up with. And if we go to GIMP, I'll show you basically how I got there. So again, this is you're looking at the whole shot composed. As I turn off the layers, see the layers over here. So this is the Daenerys shot, and that is more or less as the original was. I've brought that in and I've just disappeared elements of it. So those elements are disappeared based on a mask on the side. So you can see how the mask I've just basically painted out the press photographer on the right and hides with jacket and some of the other people in the scene. So obviously in these areas then I wanted to add something else, and because this model was actually doing her best to pose for me, but in this very, very kind of Shakespearean theatrical way, it didn't really work because it looks like she's looking at the top of a building or something. So I've brought in this character from another image, So now it looks vaguely as if she's looking towards that character. So this character actually was shot again with my flash, so this particular tinfoil head was very much overexposed. So I brought that down by putting on another layer. I'll just show the difference here. Another layer. This layer is put in a different mode. So this one is put in a multiply mode. And then again, one more of that layer put on in a multiply, just to keep bringing down the exposure. Okay, for the model layer, I've duplicated this layer again, but like this time it's duplicated in a different mode. It's duplicated in a screen mode. So if I click that on, you'll see that just puts a bit more focus on the model. And the final layer is another character on, as I call it, a little bit vacant here on the right hand side. So I've done another one of those little monsters and just put it into the background. So, and again, a lot of these items are achieved by masking areas out. So I show you the mask for this area. So basically by masking and compositing over different layers, so I've built up a completely different fantasy, if you like, shot. So when you've got that shot, of course, it's now in GIMP. So it's in a GIMP format. You can save that in a format, so you can come back to it and make any adjustments you want later. Or you can also go and export that one. So if we go here to export as, you can choose how you want it exported. So let's say we want it exported as a JPEG. Just put on JPEG, say it's Dragon 111, and we'll put it onto the desktop so we can see it easily. You can have whatever level of quality you want in the image, and finally do the export. So if we drop back to my desktop, and that's the composite image. So thanks for listening to the overview on GIMP. If you want the program or want to start messing around with it, you can just go to their gimp.org page, click the download button, and choose the download for your operating system. So normally it'll track into, so it knows I'm using Windows, it's tracked into Microsoft Windows. And here we can download directly or download via BitTorrent. Direct is an easier way to use. So just click that, it'll download into your system, then you can install it. All right, thanks again. Bye.
So look, I'd like to thank Martin for the work he's put into his Dragon of Shandon presentation. As usual, Martin, no stone left unturned. Thank you very much. I think everybody has the idea that, you know, shooting the Dragon of Shandon or an event like that is easy peasy, but it's far from it. It takes a lot of dedication to get good results from the Dragon of Shandon, and Martin, you certainly have broken the mold in this one, in fairness to you. And Tim, thank you very much for your introduction to everybody for the GIMP open source software. So again, it's food for thought for people. So, you know, we don't have to go out and spend money on software. It's out there anyway. So please download it and have a look at it, and do get involved in all our challenges. So to you, the viewer, thanks everybody for watching. It's been a great session again, and our Scotland images, hopefully you'll start uploading them to the inbox. And on the 28th of April, we have our last competition night. Now, again, I'd like to thank everybody down through every month for making a fabulous competition this year. It's been great fun. People have gotten an awful lot out of it. Our entries have been phenomenal right up to the end. So please submit again for the last one. I think it's the best year, certainly for a long, long time, where at the end of the year, our entries are as good as the beginning of the year. So well done to everybody. Congratulations to everybody who has taken part. And it's been great competition, in fairness. I'd encourage you all, please, to take part in our processing challenge. You know, as I say, it is by doing it that we actually learn how to do these things. And again, when we do the home challenge, hopefully again that you'll take it as, see it just as a bit of fun and, you know, just a bit of communication within the club. It's good to get people doing things. Don't forget that next week we have Rodney O'Callaghan presenting his Photoshop session, which I'm personally looking forward to, and it's going to be a great session. And finally, tomorrow morning, Wednesday morning, there's fog forecast, a nice calm morning, good foggy morning up to about 8 o'clock. So hopefully that will come true for everybody. And if you can get out in your local area, even if it's only out in your driveway or in the local park next to you or something, go out and photograph a few trees in the fog or whatever, it would be fantastic. So maybe we might have a show and tell some evening with our fog images as well, if people can get out. Now, you would have to get up early in the morning, Martin, this is for you especially. You would have to get up maybe at about 6:30 or thereabouts. So looking forward to seeing your results, Martin. All the best. Good night, everybody. Until next week. Take care. Stay safe.